My name is Amanda, 35 years old, and after 7 years of marriage, I never thought I'd be here, frantically packing my bags while fighting back tears. Just this morning, I discovered texts between my husband Derek and my best friend Stephanie. How could they betray me like this? I couldn't bear to see his face for another second. The sound of a key turning in the front door lock made my heart stop. I slipped toward the backyard to hide, but the voice of the person who entered made me freeze in place. It wasn't Derek at all. Before I continue the story, let me know where you're watching from in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe to hear how my world was about to change forever. Derek and I met during our sophomore year of college. I was studying marketing, and he was pre-med with dreams of becoming a pediatric surgeon. We literally bumped into each other at the campus library, sending my stack of textbooks tumbling to the floor. He helped me gather them, and when our hands touched reaching for the same book, it was like electricity. I know it sounds cliché, but sometimes life really does work that way. Our first date was at a small Italian restaurant just off campus. He showed up with daisies, not roses, because he'd noticed they were my favorite when he walked me back to my dorm the day we met. That's the kind of man Derek was, observant, thoughtful. The type who remembered small details that most people overlook. We dated throughout college, and he proposed the night of our graduation. We were at the campus fountain, the place where we'd had our first kiss. He got down on one knee, pulled out a small velvet box, and told me I was his best friend and the love of his life. I said yes before he even finished asking. My roommate Jillian was hiding nearby and captured the whole thing on camera. Our wedding was everything I'd dreamed of, not extravagant, but filled with love. My father cried walking me down the aisle, something I'd never seen him do before. Derek's vows made everyone reach for tissues. Amanda, I promise to be your partner in all things, to support your dreams as fiercely as my own, to love you through whatever storms may come. Those words would be tested more than I ever imagined. We bought our house in a quiet suburban neighborhood 3 years ago. It had a white picket fence and a maple tree in the front yard, all the things we'd talked about wanting. We painted every room ourselves, argued over furniture, and made it ours. We talked about filling it with children someday, though we agreed to wait until Derek's career was more established. My career in marketing had taken off faster than I expected. Last year, I was promoted to executive director at my agency, managing our largest accounts. Derek was so proud, throwing me a surprise party with all our friends. His career was thriving too. He'd become one of the most respected pediatric surgeons at Boston Children's Hospital, known for taking on the most challenging cases. The demands of his job meant unpredictable hours, late-night emergency surgeries, and sometimes days where we barely saw each other. I understood. He was saving children's lives. How could I complain about that? But over the past year, something had changed. The late nights became more frequent. He'd come home smelling like hospital soap, but sometimes something else too, a perfume that wasn't mine. He became protective of his phone, changing the password and turning it face down whenever I entered the room. He started taking calls in another room, his voice dropping to a whisper. When I asked who called, he'd say it was the hospital, a colleague, nothing important. Stephanie had been my best friend since 3rd grade. We'd been through everything together, awkward middle school years, high school heartbreaks, college acceptances. She was my maid of honor, the person who helped me pick out my wedding dress. She knew all my secrets, all my insecurities, all my dreams. She was family. When her apartment flooded 6 months ago, I insisted she stay with us until it was repaired. Derek was hesitant but agreed. That's when I first noticed the strange energy between them, inside jokes I wasn't part of, conversations that stopped when I entered the room. But I trusted them both completely. How could I not? Our last happy day together was our anniversary 2 months ago. Derek took the day off, and we went to the beach where we'd spent our honeymoon. We collected shells, ate ice cream, and watched the sunset. He held my hand and told me he loved me more than the day we married. I believed him. The changes became impossible to ignore after that day. Derek started coming home even later. Some nights he didn't come home at all, claiming he'd crashed in the on-call room. Stephanie began dropping by unexpectedly, always asking if Derek was home. If he wasn't, she'd leave quickly. If he was, she'd stay for hours. I didn't want to be the jealous, suspicious wife. I trusted Derek. I trusted Stephanie. But last night, when Derek fell asleep in the shower, something he'd been doing more frequently lately, claiming exhaustion, his phone buzzed on the bathroom counter. I shouldn't have looked. Part of me wishes I hadn't. But I did. Can't wait to see you tomorrow. Amanda will be at work. I miss your touch. The message was from Stephanie. My Stephanie. My best friend. And there were hundreds more just like it going back months. That's when my world collapsed. My hands shook as I scrolled through the messages between Derek and Stephanie. Each word was like a knife twisting deeper into my heart. Photos. Plans for meetups. Complaints about me. The timestamps showed messages sent during times Derek had told me he was in surgery. Times when Stephanie had canceled our lunch plans claiming she wasn't feeling well. I ran to the bathroom and threw up, my body physically rejecting the betrayal. My legs gave out. And I sank to the cold tile floor, clutching his phone. My chest felt tight like I couldn't breathe. The room spun around me. I sat there for what felt like hours, reading and rereading the messages. Hoping I'd misunderstood, hoping there was some explanation. There wasn't. Derek found me there when he finally came out of the shower. His face immediately draining of color when he saw his phone in my hands. Amanda, he said, reaching for the towel around his waist. I can explain. Explain what? My voice sounded hollow. Unrecognizable even to myself. Explain how you've been sleeping with my best friend? How you've both been lying to my face for months. It's not what you think, he said. The most cliché line in the history of caught cheaters. Not what I think. I've read everything, Derek. Every single message. I stood up, suddenly finding strength in my anger. How could you do this to me? With Stephanie of all people. He started to deny it, to minimize it. We haven't. It's complicated. She's been going through some things, and I've been helping her. Helping her? Is that what you call it? I threw his phone at the wall, watching with satisfaction as the screen shattered. Were you helping her when you told her you missed her body? When you planned meetups behind my back? He reached for me, but I backed away. Don't touch me. Don't you dare touch me. Amanda, please. Let me explain. There are things you don't understand. I understand perfectly, I said. I understand that our marriage means nothing to you. I understand that my best friend is a backstabbing liar. What else is there to understand? Derek had to leave for work, an emergency surgery he couldn't reschedule. Part of me thought he was lying about that too, but the hospital called while we were arguing. So I knew at least that part was true. We'll talk when I get home, he said, getting dressed quickly. Please, just wait until I get back. There's more to this than you know. There's nothing you can say that will make this okay, I told him. Nothing. As soon as he left, I called my sister Jillian. She answered on the first ring. Her voice cheerful until she heard me sobbing. I'll be there in 20 minutes, she said without hesitation. Don't do anything until I get there. But I couldn't wait. I pulled out our suitcases and began throwing my clothes inside, not bothering to fold anything. I was going through Derek's drawers too, looking for anything else he might be hiding. When I found it, a small velvet jewelry box at the back of his sock drawer. Inside was a diamond bracelet I'd never seen before, with a small card that read, "For Stephanie, all my love, D." I sank to the floor again, the bracelet clutched in my fist. He'd bought her jewelry. Expensive jewelry. With our money. I kept searching, now in a frenzy. In his home office. Hidden inside a medical textbook, I found hotel receipts. The Ritz-Carlton downtown, 5 different dates. All during times he'd told me he was working overnight shifts. There were restaurant receipts too, places we'd talked about trying together, but never had because they were too expensive. In the back of his closet, behind his winter clothes, I found a shoebox containing more evidence, handwritten letters from Stephanie, a spare key to what I assumed was her new apartment, and a burner phone. I turned it on and found even more messages. These more explicit than the ones I'd seen earlier. The affair hadn't just been going on for weeks or months. based on the dates of the earliest messages and letters. It had been going on for over a year. They'd been betraying me for over a year. As I continued packing, my phone started blowing up with notifications. Stephanie calling. Stephanie texting. Amanda, we need to talk. It's not what you think. Please call me. I blocked her number. Then came texts from mutual friends, people I'd known for years. Are you okay? Call me when you can. I'm here if you need to talk. How many of them knew? How many had covered for Derek and Stephanie? How many had pitted poor, oblivious Amanda? I felt like such a fool. All those late nights at the hospital. All those times Stephanie canceled plans at the last minute. All the whispered phone calls and inside jokes. I'd been living in a lie. Sleeping next to a stranger, confiding in a snake. Every memory was now tainted, every happy moment called into question. By the time I finished gathering my things, Jillian had arrived. She took one look at me and the suitcases and knew what I decided. Are you sure you want to leave without talking to him? She asked gently. What's there to talk about? I've seen enough. I showed her the evidence I'd collected. She looked through it all, her expression hardening. That bastard. And Stephanie. I can't believe it. I can't stay here, Jill. I can't face him. Not today. She nodded. You can stay with me as long as you need. But he'll be home in a few hours. We should go before he gets back. I just needed a few more things from our bedroom. That's when I heard it, the sound of a key turning in the front door lock. Derek wasn't supposed to be home for hours. Panic surged through me. I wasn't ready to face him. Not yet. Hide. Jillian whispered, pushing me toward the back of the house. I slipped out toward the patio doors, planning to wait in the backyard until whoever it was left. But then I heard a voice that made me freeze in place. It wasn't Derek's voice. It wasn't Stephanie's either. It was a woman's voice I recognized but couldn't immediately place. Derek, it's Lauren. Pick up if you're there. It's urgent. The voice echoed through the empty house as I remained frozen behind the curtain near the patio doors. Lauren. Derek's colleague from the hospital. A cardiothoracic surgeon who occasionally joined us for dinner parties. Why was she here in our home when Derek was supposedly in surgery? I heard her footsteps moving through the living room. Then the beep of her phone as she made another call. He's not answering, she said to whoever was on the other end of the line. I'm at his house now, but no one seems to be home. A pause. No. Amanda's car is in the driveway, but she must be out somewhere. I inched closer to hear better, careful not to make any noise. The pharmacy audit came back this morning, Lauren continued. They know someone's been falsifying records and stealing medications. They're reviewing the security footage now. Another pause. Yes, I'm sure it's him. I've suspected for months. But I didn't want to believe it. My mind raced. What was she talking about? What medications? Why would Derek be stealing from the hospital? He's been taking fentanyl patches, oxycodone, and several other opioids, Lauren said, her voice dropping lower. Large quantities, Bill. This isn't just for personal use. He's either selling or trading them. I had to cover my mouth to stifle a gasp. Derek, a drug thief? It made no sense. Derek was respected, ethical, dedicated to his patients. I know about his addiction, Lauren continued. After that 7-year-old died on his table last year, he was never the same. But this has escalated beyond self-medication. The amounts he's taking, it's dangerous. A cold feeling washed over me. A patient had died during surgery? Derek had never mentioned losing a patient, let alone one that had affected him so deeply. And addiction? My husband was addicted to drugs? How could I not have known? The thing is, Lauren's voice grew even more serious. I think Stephanie is involved somehow. I've seen them together too many times in places they shouldn't be. At first, I thought they were having an affair, but now I think it's something else. I think she's been taking the drugs from him. My mind flashed to Stephanie's increasingly erratic behavior over the past year. The weight loss. The mood swings. The financial problems she never fully explained. Could she be an addict too? The text messages, Lauren continued. Derek showed them to me. Stephanie threatened to tell Amanda about his addiction if he didn't keep supplying her. But then she wanted more than he could safely take from the hospital. That's when he started the fake affair storyline. Fake affair? My head was spinning. He thought if he could make it look like they were having an affair and Amanda found out, she would leave him. He wanted her gone, safe, away from all this before everything blew up. Stephanie went along with it because it gave her more leverage. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Derek wasn't having an affair with Stephanie. He was being blackmailed by her. He was trying to push me away to protect me. There's more, Lauren said after a moment. Stephanie isn't just an addict. Her new boyfriend, Marcus? He's a dealer. They've been using Derek as their supply line. If Derek gets caught, they'll make sure he takes all the blame. I felt sick again, but for entirely different reasons. The betrayal was still there. But it had transformed into something more complicated, more tragic. I need to find Derek before he does something stupid. He was talking about running last time we spoke. Said he'd rather disappear than watch his life fall apart or risk Amanda finding out the truth. As Lauren moved toward the kitchen, I accidentally bumped against the side table, sending a framed photo crashing to the floor. The sound echoed through the silent house. Hello, Lauren called out, her footsteps quickly approaching my hiding spot. Amanda? Is that you? There was nowhere to run. I stepped out from behind the curtain, facing Lauren with tears streaming down my face. How long have you been there? She asked, her face pale with shock. Long enough, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. Long enough to hear that my husband is a drug addict being blackmailed by my best friend, and that the affair I thought was destroying my marriage is actually a lie designed to push me away. Lauren's professional composure cracked. Amanda, I'm so sorry. I never wanted you to find out this way. How long have you known? I demanded. About the addiction? A few months. About Stephanie's involvement? Only a couple of weeks. I've been trying to convince Derek to get help, to come clean to you and the hospital. But he's terrified of losing everything, his career, his reputation, you. So he decided to make me leave instead? To break my heart on purpose. Lauren nodded slowly. He thought it was the only way to keep you safe from the fallout. He said you'd eventually move on and have a better life without him. He didn't want you to watch him self-destruct or be implicated if he got caught. Jillian appeared in the doorway. Having heard enough to understand something big was happening. What the hell is going on? Lauren looked from me to Jillian, clearly trying to decide how much to reveal. This is my sister, I said. Whatever you have to say, you can say in front of her. Lauren sank into the nearest chair, suddenly looking exhausted. Derek isn't having an affair with Stephanie. He's being blackmailed by her because she discovered his addiction to prescription painkillers. Jillian's eyes widened. What? He's been stealing medications from the hospital, I explained, the words feeling strange in my mouth. Apparently, he started after a patient died on his operating table last year. Lily Barnes, Lauren said softly. 7 years old. Came in for a routine appendectomy, but had an undiagnosed heart condition. She went into cardiac arrest on the table. Derek did everything right, but we couldn't save her. I remembered now. Derek had come home late that night, quieter than usual. He'd said he was tired from a long shift. He didn't mention a child dying. He didn't mention anything. He blamed himself, Lauren continued. Started having panic attacks, couldn't sleep. One of the nurses gave him a Xanax to help him calm down. That was the beginning. And no one noticed? Jillian asked incredulously. No one thought to intervene? Doctors are good at hiding these things, Lauren said. They know exactly what to say, how to behave. And Derek was functioning. His work never suffered. If anything, he was more focused, more precise than ever. But why would Stephanie blackmail him? I asked, still struggling to connect all the pieces. What does she get out of this? Lauren hesitated. I think that's something Derek should explain. No, I said firmly. I want to hear it from you. No more secrets. She sighed. From what Derek told me, Stephanie has been struggling with addiction herself for about 2 years. She recognized the signs in Derek and confronted him. Initially, she just wanted him to help her get pills. A mutually assured destruction kind of thing. She wouldn't tell if he supplied her. And he agreed to this? Jillian asked. He was desperate to keep his addiction secret. His career, his reputation, everything would be destroyed if it came out. So yes, he started diverting small amounts of medication to her. But then she wanted more, I guessed. Lauren nodded. Her boyfriend Marcus is a dealer. Small time at first, but growing. They saw an opportunity with Derek, a steady supply of pharmaceutical-grade opioids. Much more valuable than street drugs. They kept increasing their demands. And the affair? The text messages I found. I asked. A script, Lauren said. Derek's idea, actually. He thought if you believed he was having an affair, you would leave him. Get clear of the whole situation before it exploded. He knew the hospital was getting close to figuring out who was stealing the medications. So he deliberately broke my heart to protect me? I couldn't decide if that was selfless or even more selfish. He loves you, Amanda. That's the one thing I'm certain of. He didn't see any other way out. I don't believe you, I said, though part of me was starting to. Show me proof that they're not actually having an affair. Lauren pulled out her phone and opened her photos. I've been gathering evidence against Stephanie and Marcus. The hospital security chief is a friend, and he's been helping me unofficially. She showed me a series of photos, Stephanie with a man I'd never seen before, exchanging what looked like money for a small package. That's Marcus. They're the ones in a relationship. Not Stephanie and Derek. The photos continued, Marcus and Stephanie entering her apartment building together, sitting close in a car, kissing in a parking lot. The timestamps showed these were taken during time Stephanie was supposedly with Derek. He really isn't sleeping with her, I whispered, a strange mix of relief and confusion washing over me. No, he's not, Lauren confirmed. But what he's doing is still illegal. Still a betrayal of his oath as a doctor, of the hospital's trust. And he's still an addict who needs help. Why didn't he tell me? I asked, anger bubbling up again. Why didn't he trust me enough to tell me what was happening? Shame, Lauren said simply. Addiction carries so much shame. Especially for someone in his position. And then once he started stealing, the legal implications, he convinced himself he was protecting you by keeping you in the dark. That wasn't his decision to make, I said firmly. No, it wasn't, Lauren agreed. But addicts don't think clearly. They make decisions based on protecting their addiction first, then rationalize those decisions however they can. My mind was racing, recalling moments that suddenly made sense, Derek's mood swings. The times I'd found him drenched in sweat in the middle of the night claiming nightmares, the weight loss, the way he sometimes seemed disconnected from conversations. I'd attributed it all to stress from work, to the pressure of his job. How had I missed this? Just then, Lauren's phone rang. She looked at the screen, then at me. It's Derek. My heart pounded. Answer it. Put it on speaker. She hesitated, then nodded, accepting the call. Derek, hi. Lauren, did you go to my house? His voice sounded strained, desperate. Yes, I'm here now. Is Amanda there? Her car's in the driveway, but she's not answering her phone. Lauren looked at me questioningly. I shook my head. No, the house was empty when I arrived, Lauren lied smoothly. Listen, Derek, we need to talk. The pharmacy audit came back this morning. Silence on the other end. Then, how bad is it? Bad. They know someone's been falsifying records. They're reviewing security footage now. Oh God. His voice cracked. How long do I have? Not long. Where are you? The surgery was canceled when they couldn't locate you. I needed to think. I'm at the park near the hospital. He paused. I can't do this anymore, Lauren. I can't keep living like this. I've ruined everything, my career, my marriage. Derek. Listen to me. You need to turn yourself in. Come to the hospital, talk to administration. Take responsibility before they come looking for you. What's the point? He asked, his voice hollow. It's over. Everything's over. No, it's not. We can get you help. Treatment, rehab. The hospital might be lenient if you're proactive. Amanda's going to find out everything, he said. And I could hear the tears in his voice. She'll never forgive me. Not just the drugs, but the lies. Making her think I was cheating on her with her best friend. Who does that to someone they love? Someone who's sick and not thinking clearly, Lauren said gently. Someone who needs help. I was going to run, he admitted. I have a bag packed in my car. Enough cash to disappear for a while. But I can't do it. I can't leave without saying goodbye to Amanda, without trying to explain. My heart constricted painfully in my chest. Derek, Lauren said carefully. Running won't solve anything. It will only make things worse. I know. I know that now. He sounded defeated. I'll come to the hospital. Turn myself in. But I need to talk to Amanda first. I need to tell her the truth before she hears it from someone else. I think that's the right decision, Lauren said, looking directly at me. I'll be home in 30 minutes, Derek said. Can you stay there? In case she comes back? I don't want her to be alone when she finds out. I'll be here, Lauren promised. The call ended, and the three of us sat in silence for a moment. What are you going to do? Jillian finally asked me. I looked at the suitcases still packed by the door, then at Lauren. He needs help. Yes, he does, Lauren agreed. And he lied to me. Manipulated me. Let me believe something horrible to push me away. Also true. I took a deep breath. But he's sick. And he's still my husband. I turned to Jillian. In sickness and in health. That's what I promised. This is a little more complicated than the flu, Amanda, Jillian said gently. I know. And I'm furious with him. But I need to hear him out. I need to understand everything before I decide what to do next. Lauren nodded. For what it's worth, I think you're making the right choice. At least to listen. What about Stephanie? Jillian asked. And this Marcus person? They can't get away with this, I said, a new determination filling me. They exploited Derek's addiction. They blackmailed him. They need to be held accountable. I've been building a case, Lauren said. With your help. We might be able to convince the hospital to focus on the bigger picture, the drug ring, rather than making an example of Derek. What do you need from me? I asked. Any evidence of Stephanie's involvement. Text messages, emails, anything that shows she was blackmailing Derek or connected to the drugs. I thought of the burner phone I'd found. The hotel receipts. I have some things that might help. Good. And Derek will need to cooperate fully. Tell them everything he knows about Marcus's operation. I nodded. He will. I wasn't sure how I knew that, but I did. Underneath all the lies and manipulation, I still knew my husband. And I knew he would do the right thing, given the chance. He'll be here soon. Lauren said. Do you want me to stay? I looked at Jillian, who squeezed my hand supportively. Yes, both of you. I think I'm going to need all the support I can get. The 30 minutes we waited for Derek felt like 30 hours. I paced the living room, my mind cycling through every moment of our marriage, reevaluating everything in light of this new information. Had there been signs I'd missed? Opportunities to intervene that I'd overlooked? Stop torturing yourself, Jillian said, watching me. Addiction is insidious. People hide it from their closest loved ones all the time. I should have known, I insisted. I'm his wife. Doctors are particularly good at hiding addiction. Lauren added. They understand the signs others look for, so they know how to mask them. And Derek was functional, performing surgeries, attending meetings, maintaining relationships. High-functioning addicts can fly under the radar for years. I thought back to the past year, remembering subtle changes I'd dismissed. Derek switching from coffee to energy drinks. The sudden interest in running that he claimed was for stress relief. The way he'd sometimes disappear into the bathroom for long periods. His insistence on doing the laundry himself when he'd never shown interest in household chores before. After Lily died, Lauren said quietly Derek changed. He became more cautious in surgeries, double and triple checking everything. On the surface, it looked like he'd become more dedicated. In reality, he was terrified of making another mistake. The drugs helped calm that fear. The irony is that the drugs increased his risk of making an error, Jillian pointed out. As a substance abuse counselor, she knew the statistics all too well. He was careful about when he used. Lauren explained. Never before surgeries. Usually after, when the adrenaline crash hit and the second guessing began. Why didn't you report him? I asked Lauren suddenly. When you first suspected? She looked away. I should have. Professionally, ethically, I should have. But Derek saved my brother's life 3 years ago. A complicated congenital heart defect that other surgeons wouldn't touch. My brother's alive because of Derek's skill. I thought I could help him myself. Get him into treatment quietly. The sound of a car pulling into the driveway silenced our conversation. Derek was home. We heard his key in the lock, then his footsteps in the entryway. "Lauren," he called out. "In here." She responded. Derek walked into the living room, his appearance shocking me. He looked haggard, with dark circles under his eyes and at least 10 pounds lost since I'd seen him that morning. His normally immaculate appearance was disheveled, wrinkled scrubs, unshaven face, hair standing on end as if he'd been running his hands through it repeatedly. He froze when he saw me. "Amanda." His eyes darted to Jillian, then back to Lauren. "You said she wasn't here." "I lied," Lauren said simply. "She heard our phone conversation, Derek. She knows everything." The color drained from his face as he looked at me. "Everything. The addiction. The stealing. Stephanie blackmailing you. The fake affair to push me away." My voice remained steady despite the turmoil inside me. "Why didn't you trust me enough to tell me the truth?" He sank into the nearest chair, burying his face in his hands. "I was trying to protect you. By breaking my heart? I couldn't keep the edge from my voice. By keeping you away from the fallout," he said, looking up at me with red-rimmed eyes. "If the hospital pressed charges, if there was a trial, if the medical board got involved. I didn't want you dragged through that. Your career, your reputation. I couldn't let my mistakes destroy your life too." "That wasn't your decision to make," I said, echoing my earlier words to Lauren. "We're married, Derek. Your problems are my problems. That's how this works." "I know." His voice broke. "I know that now. But the addiction, it warps your thinking." All I could focus on was protecting my secret, getting the next pill. Avoiding withdrawal. Everything else became secondary, even you. Especially you, because your disappointment was the one thing I couldn't bear. "So you made me hate you instead?" He nodded slowly. "It seemed easier that way. If you left me because you thought I'd betrayed you, you'd be angry but eventually move on. If you left me because I was a drug addict who stole from my patients, who endangered lives, you'd never recover from that kind of disillusionment." "You underestimated me," I said, anger flaring again. "I did. I underestimated everything about you, your strength, your compassion, your right to make your own choices." Jillian spoke up. "Derek, I work with addicts every day. I know the disease, the patterns. But what you did, orchestrating a fake affair, manipulating Amanda's emotions, that goes beyond addiction behavior." Derek turned to her. "You're right. I can't blame it all on the drugs. Part of it was cowardice. I couldn't face telling Amanda the truth. I couldn't face seeing the look in her eyes when she realized who I'd really become." "And Stephanie?" I asked. "How did she get involved in all this?" Derek sighed heavily. "She stopped by the house unexpectedly about 6 months ago. You were at a conference in Chicago." I was in pretty bad shape. Withdrawal. She recognized the signs immediately. Instead of helping or confronting me, she saw an opportunity. "She's an addict too?" I asked, though Lauren had already confirmed this. "Yes, for longer than me. But her habit was expensive, and her job as a graphic designer wasn't covering it. She started small, asking for a few pills here and there. Then she met Marcus, the dealer I supplied." Derek looked surprised that I knew that detail. "Yes." He saw a golden opportunity in me, a doctor with access to pharmaceutical-grade opioids. The street value is 5 to 10 times what you'd pay at a pharmacy. They started demanding more, threatening to expose me if I didn't comply. "And the text messages? The hotel receipts I found?" I asked. "All staged. We'd meet at hotels to exchange the drugs. The romantic texts were in case anyone, you, the hospital, the police, ever got suspicious and checked our phones. We created a paper trail of an affair to cover the real crime." "Did you ever?" I couldn't finish the question. "No," Derek said firmly, meeting my eyes. "Never. Not once. I've never been unfaithful to you, Amanda. The thought never even crossed my mind. The texts, the gifts, the hotels, it was all window dressing for the drug exchanges. I wanted to believe him. Despite everything, I wanted to believe that at least that part had been a lie. What about that bracelet I found? The diamond one for Stephanie. Derek looked confused. I never bought Stephanie jewelry. It was in your sock drawer. With a card signed D. Comprehension dawned on his face. That was for you. For our anniversary next month. D is for Derek. Not darling or whatever you thought. I felt a twinge of something, not quite relief, not quite regret. Just another piece of the puzzle falling into place. The hospital knows, Lauren said. Bringing us back to the immediate crisis. The pharmacy audit revealed discrepancies. They're reviewing security footage now. Derek nodded. I know. I'm going to turn myself in. Tell them everything. Everything? I asked. Including Stephanie and Marcus's involvement. Yes, he said without hesitation. I'm done protecting them. They don't deserve protection. What will happen to you? Jillian asked gently. Best case? The hospital allows me to enter a physician recovery program. License suspension during treatment, then probationary reinstatement with monitoring. Worst case? Criminal charges, loss of license, possibly jail time. The stark reality of our situation hit me anew. My husband, the brilliant surgeon who saved children's lives, might go to prison. His career, which he'd worked his entire life to build, might be over. Our future, which had seemed so certain this morning, was now a question mark. What can I do? I asked, surprising myself with the question. Derek looked at me with disbelief. You'd still help me? After everything I've done? I don't know what our marriage looks like after this, I said honestly. I don't know if I can forgive the lies, the manipulation. But I do know I'm not going to abandon you when you're at your lowest. That's not who I am. The hospital administrator, Jackson Williams, Lauren interjected. Amanda, doesn't he owe you a favor? Didn't you handle that PR crisis for his wife's charity last year? I nodded slowly. Yes, the embezzlement scandal. We kept it out of the papers. A word from you might help, Lauren suggested. Not to excuse what Derek did, but to advocate for treatment rather than punishment. And the evidence we've gathered on Stephanie and Marcus, Jillian added. If Derek cooperates with the authorities to bring down a larger drug operation, that could work in his favor too. Derek was shaking his head. I can't ask Amanda to use her professional connections to help me. Not after what I've done. You're not asking, I said firmly. I'm offering. Not just for you. But because it's the right thing to do. Addiction is a disease. You need treatment, not imprisonment. What about Stephanie? Lauren asked. She'll know something's wrong when Derek stops supplying her. She might try to get ahead of this by exposing him first. Let her try, I said, a cold determination settling over me. I have the burner phone with all their messages. I have the hotel receipts. And now that I know what to look for, I bet I can find bank records showing suspicious transactions. We need to move quickly, Jillian said. Derek needs to get to the hospital, talk to administration before they come looking for him. Amanda, you should call Jackson Williams now. I nodded, pulling out my phone. As I scrolled to find his number, Derek reached out and touched my arm gently. Thank you, he said, his voice thick with emotion. I don't deserve your help. I don't deserve you. This isn't forgiveness, I clarified. This is humanity. And keeping a promise I made 7 years ago. For better or worse, in sickness and in health. He nodded, understanding the distinction. I'll earn your forgiveness, Amanda. Somehow, someday, I'll make this right. First things first, I said, finding Jackson's number. Let's keep you out of jail. Then we can worry about our marriage. The next 24 hours were a blur of activity and emotion. After my call to Jackson Williams, in which I carefully explained the situation while emphasizing Derek's willingness to cooperate fully, we drove to the hospital together. Derek insisted on going directly to the administration office to turn himself in. The meeting with the hospital board was tense, but not as catastrophic as we'd feared. Jackson had prepared them for our arrival and framed the situation as both a serious breach of protocol and an opportunity to address a larger drug distribution ring. Derek was forthright, hiding nothing. He detailed his addiction, the theft, and Stephanie and Marcus's blackmail and drug-dealing operation. The board's decision was swift but measured. Derek would be suspended immediately, required to enter an intensive inpatient physician recovery program, and upon successful completion, would be considered for probationary reinstatement with strict monitoring. The hospital would cooperate with law enforcement regarding Stephanie and Marcus, but would not press charges against Derek if he complied with all treatment requirements. "You're getting a second chance that few would receive," the chief of surgery told Derek bluntly. "Don't waste it." As we left the meeting, Derek squeezed my hand. "Thank you. I know your call to Jackson made all the difference. You still have a long road ahead," I reminded him. "This is just the beginning." While Derek met with the hospital's Physician Wellness Committee to arrange his treatment program, I called Detective Maria Sanchez, a contact from a previous marketing campaign I'd done for the police department. I explained the situation regarding Stephanie and Marcus, emphasizing the scope of their operation and offering all the evidence we'd collected. "We've had Marcus Reed on our radar for months," Detective Sanchez told me, "but we've never been able to identify his supply source. This could be the break we need." "What about my husband?" I asked cautiously. "He's agreed to enter treatment. The hospital is handling their side of things internally. If he cooperates fully with our investigation, I'll recommend to the DA that we focus on the distributors rather than the source," she said. "No guarantees, but typically we're more interested in the dealers than the addicts." By evening, Stephanie and Marcus had been arrested. Detective Sanchez called to let me know they'd found a significant quantity of prescription medications in Stephanie's apartment, along with evidence of distribution. Both were facing serious charges. I felt no satisfaction at the news, only a profound sadness. Stephanie had been my friend since childhood. How had we both ended up here? Her facing criminal charges. Me sitting in an empty house wondering if my marriage could be salvaged. That night, after Derek had been admitted to the treatment facility, Jillian stayed with me. We sat on the couch, sharing a bottle of wine and the weight of the day's revelations. "What are you going to do?" she asked eventually. "About your marriage?" I stared into my glass. "I honestly don't know. Part of me wants to walk away, start fresh. What he did, the manipulation, the lies, it was cruel, Jill. Even if he thought he was protecting me. And the other part? The other part remembers the man I married. The one who cried when he said his vows. The one who sat with me all night when Mom was in the hospital. The one who always put me first. Until the addiction took over." "Addiction changes people," Jillian said gently. "You know that from my work. It rewires the brain, alters priorities, distorts thinking." "I know. That's what makes this so complicated. If he'd just been cheating, the decision would be clearer. But this..." I shook my head. "He's sick. He needs help. And somewhere underneath all this, I think the man I married is still there." "So you're staying?" "For now, I'm supporting his recovery. Beyond that..." I shrugged. "We'll see what's left of our relationship when the dust settles." The next morning, I called my boss at the marketing agency and explained that I needed personal leave. She was understanding, offering me 6 weeks of paid leave and the option to work remotely after that if needed. I was grateful for the flexibility, knowing the coming months would require my full attention. With Jillian's help, I researched addiction, particularly among medical professionals. The statistics were sobering. Up to 15% of physicians would develop a substance use disorder during their career. The high-stress environment, easy access to medications, and culture of self-reliance created a perfect storm for addiction. I also found a support group for families of healthcare professionals with substance use disorders. The stories I heard there were eerily similar to mine: the shock of discovery, the feelings of betrayal and failure, the complex mix of anger and compassion. It helped to know I wasn't alone. A week after Derek entered treatment, I was allowed to visit. The facility was beautiful, more like a retreat center than a hospital, with gardens and walking paths. But the security was evident in the keycard access doors and the careful monitoring of visitors. Derek looked both better and worse than when I'd last seen him. The physical symptoms of withdrawal had taken their toll. He was pale and had lost more weight. But his eyes were clearer, more present than they'd been in months. "How are you?" I asked as we sat in the visitor's garden. "Physically? Terrible. The detox was. I wouldn't wish it on anyone." He gave a weak smile. "Mentally? Clearer than I've been in a long time. It's like a fog has lifted." "That's good," I said, not knowing what else to say. "Amanda, I know we can't just pick up where we left off. I know I've damaged something fundamental between us." I nodded, grateful for his directness. "Yes, you have. I'm working with my therapist on understanding why I made the choices I did. Not just the drugs, but the lies. Why I couldn't trust you with the truth. Have you found any answers?" He looked down at his hands. "Some. The addiction explains part of it, the desperation to protect my supply. The distorted thinking. But there's more. I've always been the strong one, the successful one, the one who had everything together. The thought of you seeing me weak, seeing me fail. I couldn't bear it. That's not marriage, Derek. Marriage means being vulnerable with each other. Sharing our weaknesses, not just our strengths. I know that now." He reached for my hand. Then hesitated. "May I?" I nodded, and he took my hand gently. "I don't expect forgiveness," he said. "Not yet. Maybe not ever. But I want you to know I'm committed to this process. To becoming someone worthy of your trust again, whether we stay married or not." "I appreciate that," I said, and meant it. "I can't make any promises right now. I'm still processing everything. But I'm here, aren't I? That's something." He smiled, a genuine smile that reminded me of the Derek I'd fallen in love with. "That's everything." Over the following weeks, I established a new routine. Mornings for work, afternoons for research and support groups, evenings for processing my thoughts in the journal my therapist had suggested I keep. Twice a week. I visited Derek at the treatment center, each visit a little easier than the last. In our 5th week of this new reality, Derek's counselor invited me to join a family therapy session. Derek had been making good progress, she said, and was ready to begin the work of repairing relationships. The session was difficult but productive. Derek took full responsibility for his actions without excuses or deflection. He listened as I expressed my anger, my sense of betrayal, my fear that I could never trust him again. He didn't become defensive or try to minimize my feelings. "What do you need from me going forward?" he asked as the session was wrapping up. I thought carefully before answering. Complete honesty. Even when it's uncomfortable or embarrassing or painful. I can forgive mistakes, Derek. I can even understand the addiction. What I can't accept is being kept in the dark. Having decisions made for me for my own good. I can do that, he said. No more secrets. Ever. And I need to know that you're committed to your recovery. Not just now. While it's fresh and you're being monitored, but for the long haul. This isn't something that just goes away. I know. I'm in this for life. The therapy, the support groups, the monitoring. Whatever it takes. As I drove home from that session, I felt something shift inside me. Not forgiveness, not yet. But possibility. The possibility that we might find our way back to each other. Different but perhaps stronger for having weathered the storm. That night, I unpacked my suitcases, which had remained half-packed in the corner of our bedroom for weeks. It wasn't a decision to stay forever. It was a decision to stay for now, to see this through to whatever conclusion awaited us. When I visited Derek the next day, I told him I'd unpacked my bags. The hope that bloomed in his eyes was both beautiful and terrifying. "I'm not making any promises," I cautioned. "We have a lot of work to do. But I'm willing to try if you are." He took my hands in his. "I am. One day at a time, right? Isn't that what they teach us in here?" I smiled. One day at a time. 6 months later. Our living room was transformed into a small celebration space. Balloons taped to the walls, a cake on the coffee table, and a small group of close friends and family gathered around. Derek stood in the center, a 6-month sobriety chip in his hand, his eyes bright with pride and humility. "I want to thank everyone for being here," he said, his voice steady. "Especially Amanda. Without her support, her courage in staying when she had every reason to leave, I wouldn't be standing here today." I smiled from my place on the couch, a complex mix of emotions swirling within me. Pride in Derek's progress. Gratitude for the support system that had carried us both through the darkest months. And a cautious hope for our future together. The road to this moment had been far from smooth. After completing his 90-day inpatient program, Derek had returned home to a new reality. Daily therapy sessions. 3 support group meetings a week. Random drug tests as part of his monitoring program. A career on hold with no guarantee of reinstatement. I had my own new routines. Al-Anon meetings twice a week, where I connected with others whose loved ones battled addiction. Individual therapy to process my lingering anger and rebuild my sense of trust. A support group specifically for spouses of medical professionals in recovery. We were learning to navigate this new landscape together, sometimes stumbling. Sometimes surprising ourselves with moments of connection deeper than anything we'd experienced before. The hospital had kept its promise. After reviewing Derek's progress in treatment and his continued compliance with the monitoring program, they'd granted him a probationary return to practice. Not in surgery, not yet, but in consultation and teaching. It was a step toward rebuilding his career, with the understanding that trust had to be re-earned gradually. Stephanie's story had taken a different turn. Facing multiple felony charges, she'd accepted a plea deal that included mandatory treatment and a reduced sentence. I'd visited her once in the rehabilitation facility where she was serving the first part of her sentence. The conversation had been difficult, raw with the pain of betrayal on both sides. "I never meant for it to go so far," she'd said, tears streaming down her face. "The addiction, it took over everything." "I know," I'd replied, because after months of learning about this disease, I did know. That didn't make forgiveness easy, but it made understanding possible. Marcus had not been so lucky. With prior convictions and no cooperation with authorities, he was serving a 10-year sentence for drug trafficking. As our small celebration wound down and guests began to leave, Derek and I found ourselves alone in the kitchen. Loading the dishwasher in the comfortable silence we'd gradually relearned. "Thank you for today," he said, passing me a plate to rinse. "For everything, really." I accepted the plate, our fingers brushing briefly. "You did the hard work. I just didn't give up on you." "That was the hard work," he countered. "Staying when everything in you probably wanted to run." I considered this. There were days I wanted to. Days I questioned whether I was being strong or just foolish. And now, he asked carefully, the question that always hovered between us. "Now I think maybe strength and foolishness aren't so different. Sometimes the bravest choice looks like the craziest one from the outside." He smiled. Our therapist would be proud of that insight. I laughed, the sound coming easier these days. She should be, considering what we pay her. Later that night, as we prepared for bed in the routine we'd established, separate but parallel, giving each other space while remaining connected, Derek paused at the bathroom door. "Do you ever regret it?" he asked. "Staying?" I looked up from my book, considering the question seriously. "No," I said finally. "It hasn't been easy. There are still days when the anger comes back, when I remember the lies and feel that same hurt all over again. But then I see how hard you're working. How committed you are to your recovery and to rebuilding what we had. And I remember why I stayed." "Why did you?" he asked, though we'd discussed this in therapy many times. "Because underneath the addiction, underneath the lies, you're still the man I married. The man who remembers how I take my coffee, who leaves notes in my lunch bag on difficult days, who still looks at me like I'm the most amazing person you've ever seen." I set my book aside. And, because I made a promise, in sickness and in health. This was the sickness part. It just didn't look like what I expected. He crossed the room and sat beside me on the bed, taking my hand in his. "I don't deserve you." "Probably not," I said with a small smile. "But recovery isn't about getting what we deserve. It's about healing, growing, becoming better than we were." That's true for both of us. Both of us. I nodded. I'm recovering too, in my own way. From the shock, the betrayal, the fear. Learning to trust again, to believe in us again. It's a process for me just like sobriety is for you. He brought my hand to his lips, kissing it gently. One day at a time. One day at a time, I agreed. That night, for the first time in months, I dreamed not of the past or the painful present, but of the future. A future where Derek's addiction was part of our story, but not the whole story. Where the trust we were painstakingly rebuilding became the foundation for something new and possibly stronger than before. I woke with a sense of peace I hadn't felt since that morning when I discovered the texts on Derek's phone. Not because everything was fixed, it wasn't, and might never completely be. But because I'd found a kind of freedom in the journey. The freedom that comes from choosing to stay and fight rather than run. The freedom that comes from loving someone not despite their brokenness, but with a full acknowledgement of it. Derek was already awake, watching me with those clear eyes that had once been clouded by addiction. "Good morning," he said softly. "Good morning," I replied, and meant it. In the light of that new day, I understood something I'd been struggling to articulate for months. Forgiveness wasn't about forgetting what had happened or pretending it hadn't hurt. It was about choosing to move forward anyway, carrying the lessons, but not the weight of the pain. It was a gift I gave not just to Derek, but to myself. The road ahead would still have its challenges. Derek's recovery would always be a work in progress. Trust would be built back slowly, day by day, choice by choice. Our marriage would never be what it was before, but perhaps it could be something more honest, more resilient, more deeply rooted in reality rather than ideals. As we sat having breakfast, the morning sun streaming through the windows, I realized that was enough. Not perfect, not unmarked by pain, but enough. A life rebuilt after devastation. A love tested and tempered by fire. A future uncertain but faced together, eyes wide open. Have you ever had to decide whether to stay or leave when someone you loved betrayed your trust? What helped you make that decision? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. And if this journey resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share with others who might need to hear that healing is possible even after the deepest betrayals. Thank you for listening to my story. And remember that sometimes the most beautiful things are built from the broken pieces of what came before.